absolutely amazing what we're coming into settings and track lines, high center and position of its operation surface. The track to its communication setting is basically coming into overcharge of panels. General is going to get more complicated now because the formation location line the screen lines is at position of its operation location centers is more levels of balance, putting all calculation spacing lines right in positions to their quad computers of self-location. Self-development line calculation line settings take them out of the MPC line rotation surface, puts all calculations into all connections. So it's all about understanding putting your systems to your hardware and software mechanisms high positions of power over charge, puts positional levels of plateau. And that platform is its communication line calculation setting in all levels of stream locations. But it's important what we're coming into at all levels of division. So high levels of expansion. So morning everyone, morning team, generally I here, space-time creator, lines and locations, all levels, opening up signals and communication your systems, interactions. Now, in direction of timelines, we have to get in line rotation. Now, we understand the position track lines we're coming in this locations, right? Now, there's going to be, you can see there are other line rotation centers. See their side locations. When you see the window frame, position traction. So I'm going to basically get you guys to understand what's going on through the track location of centers. Hold on one sec. Okay, light signature streams. It's important you guys understand these things because it all platitudes is location system. It's all levels of light, right? So in that line center, we come in division panels. Now division panels, see the light signature line settings. You see the face recognition of me? See it? See it? It's white. See the eyes on line settings? See that has a set location of face. It's a reflection location of centers. In multitudes, it's set location setting, position of its operation locations. All right, so channel position line calculations of 24, routers and routers, line set location travel settings, so opens all signals. Modify high calculations of 24 signals, calculation line settings. Equalize the position of two panels, the position of zero operation location. All right, travel calculation lines, high center interference. Now we come into flux path position of travel settings. All right. Direction of time sequence. Position locations comes in setting. Electrical calculations, stream locations, above line calculations. All right. Coming to compressors over line screens. Indirect signals to your panels. This sets position to its calculation. Now it's going to get complicated because there's center position location, the operational line centers, the center line communication comes in new plateau. Plateau line center comes into set positional levels of your clock lines in a 24 line rotation. Tractors communication lines. Sets lines of 3 lines of panels, 4 lines of 5 lines of 6 in set locations, right? Ground lines, the operation surface. Now it comes in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 set location of travel settings. So we open up the signals. Let's put position new ground lines. Okay, so we've got a 2 pyramid line screen load setting, set location of platform. Direct communication to your computer frame and direct signal and set location. See the computer? All right, so we come into another security line panel and 3 line provisions. This opens all signal location of travel settings. Okay, so we go through the computing system and box frame. Okay, and so box frame communication line centers comes into 3 lacing lines of communication. See that? See lacing line calculation stream locations. So we come into the flash drive, signature patterns, point system calculation settings, flight navigation lines, console communication settings, tractors correlation system, and all setting positions operation surface, right? And so a line calculation is 24 lines of vehicle lines calculation, 13 sets position location of center position, right? So winning line calculation line centers is a 24 lines set position of 24 position of calculations and 24 grounds. So we level lines of 1, 2, 3, 4 set locations. We split anomalies and we box the calculation lines. Don't have open sequence panels to your digital frame lines. Always have in box locations, okay? Because it's an open signal. Make sure you have it in box location. All right, so we take the 2 track lines and the 4 generation streams, down cross shift lines, and we take the 2 lines of 4 line rotation surface, power of time sequence. Then we take the 2 lines and the 4 lines of the atmosphere line rotation interference. Then we take the 2 track location of 4 generation location of space anomaly. Track axis correlation setting, directing signal locations, all levels, magnetic highway information, magnetic line calculation, center position of operation. Center lines is direct signals. Graphing calculations all along position, location, level system. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lines, graphing line calculation, stream location of setting. Okay. Now, in that track location system, this is where it comes in an open window. That open window opens spark frames in set positional levels of 2, in position of 3, in position of 4, and 5 lines of elements in set location. Okay? Done by equation. All right. So we come in line rotation centers in position location of its operation surface and track location. Okay? So that's where it comes into all levels of a high set location center. Okay, really understand how to set position location in your settings and all level system location. Okay, done by equation. All right, so weighting on positions of panels, directing position location of line center interference. So now we're in a 24 line screen, set location of 13, 13 track location of 24, and I said 24 atmosphere lines, 24 lines of panels, 24 lines of grounds to set location. Okay. Now, how we work this is we're going to understand the angle points of 3 set location of travels, right? 3 lines of modulation of models and line setters. Setter communication lines of position of program locations. Now we take the calculation to its hanger line into its dimensional sail. See the sail position traction comes into line setting of a solar graph line position location of its operation surface. Okay. Resets position of point system triangulation line settings and 3-line communication. Okay. So that sets up platforms and high calculations. So we take the 24 line calculation setting. We put 2 orbs channels in line rotation. So flux capacitors, time lines, calculations, all levels of perceptions over pi, directing communications. So we open up all signals and communication to setting lines and travel communication to a setting to its operation. Okay, very powerful stuff. Okay, so signature patterns in line settings. Okay, and then we get a 3-line wave line rotation surface, and then we get into all set locations alpha, delta, theta. Okay, in the location setting. Okay, to omega. Mega signature line screens comes in line setting and set position to its operation surface. Center lines is communication surface and set locations. Travel and timelines. So we got 2 position line connection settings and all levels of solar graph location centers and traction and set locations. Okay. Mechanism high calculation lines of its pyramid sets position of track communications into quantum line rotation. Now directing position locations comes into 72 because that's where the team is in location of pyramid rotation centers. Everything works inside locations. So we graph the calculation stream locations. This indicates program settings at 2 waving panels. Direct locations of 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 set locations. All right. Crossing line calculations 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 set locations. The travel communications, right? So you get an XT1000 above line rotation. Okay. Scans line, center line rotation, surface, and ground setting. See? Signifies calculation of 3 lines in direct signal. Opens up channels in another line communication stream location of center in position of power in direct location of clock lines in a 24 line calculation setting direct signal to its operation surface. So in the position location of track lines, we come into another line calculation triangulation resurface position of programs. Okay. So we set a vortex line calculation setting. So this is 70,000 line calculation stream locations and thought position of travels. Direct and communication line interference and travel communication system and all track locations. So if you look really close, it's the center communication line interference of contact. Remember seen the movie Contact, Jodie Foster communication line interference, Paul? That's the center communication of the metabolical stream location of its calculation line setting that sets a hydrosphere communication line stream location setting to a set locations. And there's a net below the system locations in set position. Okay, minutes on power and track location line centers of travel communications. Now, directing communication is all levels and how to set position to your centers. Direct its high center interference is all about understanding how to open up the patterns. Getting into pattern communications, you guys are now on 24 lines, equal lines of 4, line calculations of 5, and track locations, all right? That's 5 elements of 5 lines, 5 elements of center, 5 lines of balance, and 3 set location travel. Okay, so that indicates high calculation line settings and 4 track location centers. Okay, in 1 central calculation. Okay, this comes into pi. Splits anomalies in 3 line settings. Okay, 1, 2, 3 set location. Very complicated. Now the track location line centers comes in line calculation setting. So we go into 4 in provision, 5 in sector, and 6 in center of operation. Sets line calculation is 7 into box location of theta and box line rotation. Triangulates and reset position of program lines in 3 line centers and track locations. Directing communication, sun and the moon. Comes in line setting, all levels of rotation, surface, and track location. Okay, very complicated stuff. Then we come into the box frame and set location of 2 panels, into 3 panels, into 4 panels, into 5 provision line cycles and set location. Okay, now getting position lines, the calculation of 7 and 6 over 5 is a triangulation reset program. This comes into new test rec line position of travel settings, box line rotation, surface, in your system locations to all settings. Your track to its communication line settings opens all track to its communication system to all calculation. Okay, now get into the pyramid streamlines, direct location of your panels into all levels of your thought calculation stream locations. 5 generation lines of center, set position operation, and 3 line position location of all settings. Come to solar sail and direct signal to new operation of new flywheel direct signal and position location of 24 lines. And calculation settings of 72 track locations. 72 light years away. That's where the team is in line calculation stream location setting. Into 24 equals lines of 4, line conditions of 5. 5 elements of space and timeline sequence of 5 atmosphere locations. Hydrospheres and set location of travel. Okay, down by equation. Like I said, it's going to get very complicated. Recognizing time sequence is all about understanding how to service your location of screen lines. Directing lines of 1 panel crosses location centers. Okay, sets position location all system to all levels in position line calculation setting. 2 7 tracks, 2 line positions. So we get 7 lines of signals and 0 line communication. Equal lines of calculations into negative or positive position of travel. Now, directing communication lines is 7 line crosses line position location measure. Scales lines division line connection to all levels at 2 point systems. 2 atom line rotation and position attraction. Very complicated stuff. So we take all calculation line streams and set location line systems. All right. We take the 7 line rotator and line rotation at 3 line communications to travel. Directing calculation at 2 consoles and communication levels of programs. Now, program set application setting lines, XT1000 comes into platitude. Triangulation reset position of telepathy signature patterns, location centers. Travel position locations down cross lines in the T-frame line rotation interference into a new line position location of travel settings and a 0 line communication of ground lines in set position of its operation. Okay, so in the operation line centers comes into levels of plateau. Now this puts position of center lines of communication to all levels of point systems and 1 line centers and 1 track location. Okay. Now, direct communication comes in this line calculations setting, all levels of track locations and position locations of Asgard. Okay. Now, understanding what's going on is really understand the modification line screens, how the XT1000 comes in point systems that travel position location line settings. Travel communications archetypes comes in, swirls line rotations, circles line communication center, sets position of track lines, point system, direct system, all levels in line position locations, all calculation to platform and position of traction. Okay. Now we come into energetic dome center in line calculation setting. Asgard line rotates its surface and set position of travel and communication. Okay, down by equation. It's all set up. Okay, mechanism high position line travels. Getting into track communication is understand how to use the constant communications in lines of 0 lines, 1 lines, 1 lines, equal lines of correlation setting into pi and 3 set location of centers. Okay. Directing communication to platforms in 1 line rotation cross and line calculations. 0 line position of 0 line calculation setting. Fibonacci lines calculation settings of 3 swirls and line rotation centers and track location highest center interference of travel communication. Directing line calculation setting console communication into the flywheel and direct signal. Okay. Now, coming into all calculation line centers to the solar plex location center. Travel calculation settings, point system in the centers, point system, location centers, interdimensional door, and line rotation. 3 center calculation stream locations. Indicates line setting at a crop circle line set location, line system of travel. Directing communication line set location comes into all position locations into Jupiter, 2 waving patterns, Jupiter line position. Travel calculation line setting location of 2 lines. Detection stream location of center position of operation. Okay, so getting that communication lines, we come into sonar line streams, 3 line calculations and 4 lines tracks, crosses line signals of point systems and track locations, webbing line system, crossing line calculation setting, over lines, override, overdrive, setting point system location of point line conditions. Very complicated stuff. Done by equation. Right? All right. Modulation of centers is really to understand how to use the 24 line settings equals lines of 72. 72 track location line centers. That's a waiting on state locations at 144 in set position of operation. Okay. So we take the 1 line calculation setting, 4 line generation stream location of 2 point centers into 2 atom line settings and track location and measure. Setting tractors correlation setting opens all levels of high calculation stream locations in its indication to its position of its program and set position of its operation. Directed communication lines as center lines sets position to its operation service to its planet and line calculation setting to all calculations to your pyramids and cross line calculation settings 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 line signals to set location. Directing panels calculation to its elixir, line calculation of cosmic flame, cosmic fire, 4 track locations of 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and set position of travel. Directing communication line crosses line settings and 4 indicating line rotation surface and ground line settings. Directing communication line centers of a new operation surface and center position to its crop circle. Directing communication line centers open all signals in the Fibonacci line calculation, double helix and rotation surface and triangulation. Done by equation. All right. Center position of traction, line settings, all levels of mountain surface and high position to its operation set location. So we got 2 mountain line streams, the set locations, all right? Calculating centers, line interference is sun and communication crosses line communication of center. This operates line calculation Lima. Lima lines rotates the center location system, all levels into Atlantis, line to location Atlantis, calculation line interference, alpha lines, delta. Theta communication omega sets position of track lines. Waving patterns, direction of timelines, voice line grids, thought patterns, direction of time system, and set location of space lines anomaly. Done by equation. All right. Center direct signals into all levels of Lima in line calculation intelligence in metric meters and location of atmospheres of atoms and rotation surface. Triangulates lines of levels, line calculation equal lines, high center interference, and position of track to its communication of ground settings. Operation server location system to its atom line rotation centers of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 line calculation streams and set position of operation. So we triangulate the line setting, metric calculations to all levels. This is where it comes in nano interference into all calculation settings, a bracket communication settings to travel. Directing communication graph lines, all levels of line position locations, into code weaving, light codes, light configuration, stream location, configuration, line calculation setting and travels, and a 12 signature string location center and travel communications. Now we get the X2000 coming to line setting. Travel location scan lines, center lines of communication, down cross streams. Sets position of sonar, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sonar communications of travel. Directing communication sun line crosses line set location of east line, wing line, rotating surface, line triangulation, high position of programs, indirect signal, modification line calculation setting, and set position of operation. Done by equation. All right. That's set up through tone. Now we go through all position location alpha lines. So we get alpha line set locations, track location center. That's alpha, right? Then we got a delta wave communication and set location, right? And then we got a theta communications. Now theta lines gets tricky because we outline calculations of box, triangulation box, the triangulation of Fibonacci line swirl and set location. Measures accountability, calculation high centers. We take 3 lines of calculation centers, flux capacity, position of travel. Triangulation of 3 line centers, location of 6, 7, 8, and 9 line setting and travel communications. Then we come into box line, 2 panels, 3 line rotation centers and track locations, and direct location of Fibonacci lines and calculation of the sun and the moon and track location center of all operations surface applications. All right, so and then line calculation center become the center line of omega. Omega line rotates the surface and triangulation position of program line settings and all position line connections of travel communications to another dimensional line screen and line rotation surface and track location. See it? Very powerful stuff. All right, so that's set up. So we're going to X2000 come in line calculation, right? Modifies calculation lines, crosses lines of 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, and position locations of 24, sets correlations of travels, right? Now we take the 24 lines of delta, 24 lines of heading, calculation lines of tango, calculation high position location of 24 lines of center, and we go into 24 ground center line rotations and ground setting, operation line set location system, and travel communication setting, all levels of rotation surface and triangulation. Very complicated stuff. Okay? Very powerful though, isn't it? All right, so directing communication line setting is really to understand how to use the quantum communication of computer frames. So we have a computer frame of a box line, triangulation, high center interference. So we equaline communication settings and track location of center lines of communications and center position of operation. Now, this is where he sets the box line rotation to alpha and set position operation. Then we come into line calculation setting of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 sets line calculations of 5 measures, 5 set location of center position operations. 3-point system of 3 zeros. Sets lines of 1, 2, 3, 4 in line rotations. Track location of 4 lines and 3 line positions of perimeters and set location. Track calculation line interference sets line calculation centers and all levels of center communication center of operation. Directing communication line settings opens all track locations at 2 line communication center and position of operation. Center calculation line interference at 3 line wave and line rotation centers and track locations. Directing lines of swivels, line rotation surface, triangulation line calculation of face recognition of time sequence on all levels of panels. Done by equation. All right, so face recognition of time sequence is done through correlation. So we're expanding the face recognition of time. 24 lines of calculations, lines of 48, and that's where you guys are coming into, 48 calculation settings. That's percentage over line position locations, 100% line. So in percentage line calculation of 0, 0, 0, track locations to 3, sets position location of 0, 0, 0 above, that sets position of 4, set location. Now, directing position line calculation centers of 2 tracks comes into high calculation lines of security, perimeters and parameters, line position location with its box location center and track location. Center position to its operation line centers is point system, to set location of 3 lines of communication. Center line calculations. So triangulation of point system, 4 lines of 5. Platform communication lines of center and communication of center position of operation. All right, so inline calculation setting, 24 grounds, 24 powers, 24 atmospheres, 24 space, 24 anomalies, 24 line settings, 24 division locations, 24 sectors, 24 vectors, and 24 communications of quads, all set position traction. 2 panels and line setting, all position locations, center communication or flywheel, direct signals, and set location. Okay. Now, platitude line streams sets lines of 3 and a 4 and a 5 line connections. Okay. So in position of the sun sets lines of communication of projection and production line rotations. Okay. The reproduction system and track locations. Okay, done by equation. Very complicated. All right, so remembering cycles is all levels of provision locations on connections. Power direction of time, power. Okay, power equals line. Line equals box, triangle, box, Fibonacci, percentage. Sets position location triangulation of pyramid line, set location of center. Okay, so we triangulate the line setting and we set the box line connections over cross line calculation string locations. Now, Fibonacci line goes around the circle line rotation surface. The percentage goes half line, 6 line communication setting. Sets all communications to sectors, vectors, and quad location. Okay, so in direct line calculation, we take the other box line and we open up the panels and communication to its realms and travel position line connection setting to open door sequence and line setting locations in all position of travel lines and all line rotation surface and space atmosphere and lines anomaly and a higher line rotation surface and travel locations. That's my equation. All right. So you're always working with box, you're always working with triangulation. It's all about understanding how to really get your provision lines and everything percentage over pi or anything Fibonacci line calculations. Travel calculation lines are 3-line signatures. Okay. Now we change the position line directions. This is perception in calculations of kaleidoscope, which is your kilo, set locations. Travel represent time sequence sets lines of sonar, track correlation setting and track communications of directions. Okay, so we have Jupiter line calculation, Neptune calculation line settings, okay, and then we got all levels of Pluto line rotation and 3 set location of travels. Direct communication travel lines and 3 lines of indications, 4 lines of tracking high and center to an energetic wall line pattern and line rotation. Tractor's communication line crosses line setting. It sets up all position of all electrical line walls, wall line division locations across communication settings, all set position of operation. Travel communication line settings opens all those new ground line centers of operation surface of walkway surface locations. That's my equation. All right. Very complicated, guys. Extremely complicated in all line position location and travels. Okay. So how's everybody doing in position location? Heather, Trinity, Gypsy, position line calculation setting, height line interference, direct location system and travels. Okay. Tracy location centers. So what was it? Nikki, Janelle, Ziggy. Everybody's doing well. Prismore. And yeah, so I'm just constantly doing an overlying screen line and line rotation interference to analyzation location of course channels. Puts positions of 1 line sector. Okay. Set line consists of 2 lines of sector and set location of 3 lines. Okay. Directing communication of 3 panels and position of traction. Okay. Now we bring in the XT1000s and a 4-line wave line rotation surface in a box line calculation setting and track applications. This puts securities and panels line settings and traction. So this puts line calculation setting of center into crossover location of centers. But the balance stream location has to come into cross line calculation setting of traction. Okay. This balances out the modification line calculation setting to your system location of your new timestamp and line center locations in space anomaly and center line rotation center and interference. Directing calculation center lines of center position location line settings at 3 set location of platforms. Directing communication crosses line stream in position location of 2 panels and center lines of communication setting at travel communication. Directing communication lines of XT1000 crossing line calculation of stream locations. Calculation modification of center crossing line calculation of center position of operation. This is where the sun and the moon crosses line settings, all levels of stream location of indication. Okay. Now we go into the moon. The moon crosses lines of set location of 3 lines of measure and set position. See the bottom line setting? Sets up the solar sail. Graphing communication line crosses line calculation setting all lines. That puts position locations all levels of open sequence, open panel, open communication of 24 lines of grounds, powers, and the atmosphere location of space and time, and travel communication setting all levels of application. Look how powerful that is. Just look at it. Look how it's set up. It's amazing when you set things up, location of laser grid line screens and everything through Skynet position of program settings, all through indication settings and all its applications. Hello. Wave line rotation center, set location of travel communications. All right. Okay, so that's done. So the sky grid line center location of nano settings is second per set locations. That's perimeters over pi. Now the center communication setting comes into high position location travel lines. Now we got 3 graph line canisters of screens. Okay. 3 line provision location of screens. Okay. And we got center line calculation setting line at 45-degree angle. Set position of 0 lines, position of 0 and 0 location setting and triangulation of 3 set position programs. Directing line position location of 2 panels of operation set locations. XT1000 comes in here and here and here and a 4-line communications to its diamond core and line setting line conditions of northwest, south, and east. So we've got a 24 lines of atmosphere, 24 lines of space in between, sets equal lines of communication. Travels calculation of 24 ground setting, equal lines of 24, equal lines of 4, calculation high interference of 5 sets line communication is center calculation setting of yin and yang of process calculation. All right, so in that direct signal comes an L setting location of 3 lines. Okay, setting location line crosses line calculation setting location of 4 lines in set locations. Traffic calculation line interference comes into a magnetic highway information line channel in a console communication center of traction. Now that direct signal calculation settings to your position locations in all levels. So we equal line the correlations to panels, triangulation reset position locations of the space in between. All right, see it? All right, so we open this signal to all communication to a colossal line rotations to its positional metric meters and a biometric screen locations of pi and direct signal location to its center of all levels of operation and a 24 ground line center operation signal and set position to its operation set location of travel communication. Okay, now getting into that position to its location system, we bring in 2 archetypes, one way and the opposite line calculations. That keeps it on a swivel. That keeps it on rotors in the line calculation setting and space anomaly and track location of gravitational pull. That puts it up in position of pulsar calculation line settings and compulsory line screens and line rotation centers and 24 line screen set location line system of travel communications. Done by equation. All right. So the biometrics is going to get extremely complicated now. Okay. That's connecting your atmosphere lines. That's your sky grid line setting. You do everything through a holographic location. And remember, you're always protecting everything from inside connection. Okay, everything works from inside line connection to your pyramids. Okay, so directing signals of panels, enriching of timelines, the 24 lines calculation setting, line connection of face, equals lines of recognition of time. Okay, so we reverse the position of angles, 2 polarities, line calculation setting of streams. Direct communication, black holes, line rotation centers of operation. Okay, so as it comes to center line communication, it opens up all levels of channel line. This puts all calculation of balance line and track location line interference in a 24 grounds, 24 measure, 24 scale, 24 division, 24 line calculation line graphs, and line set locations into 4 elements of 5 position locations and set location of travel. Okay. So in that line calculations, we cross a stream, 3 line communications, right? And then we cross again in a 4 line communications, right? There's a reason why it's 4 over 3, right? Because you're working with line calculation of 4 lines in 3 line position locations and 4 zeros in 3 line conditions of 0 line rotations. 7 indicates position programs, directing calculation lines and magnetic high line conditions of data streams and calculation line centers of operation surface and center position to its calculation. All right. So in that position, we change the correlation setting of time and space lines anomaly. Pattern lines this division location system. Sets lines of communication settings to your pyramid and line rotation to the ground line and a new surface line calculation setting and track location. Okay? I told you the biometrics of pi is going to get complicated. All right, so directing communication, we're going to set lines and other lines, so tunnel lines, calculation stream location, and ground lines. This opens all plateaus and line rotation centers to 24 calculation center lines of space and 7% travel lines into settings. Now it comes in a 13 graph screen, which is a 13 measure. Now that sets position of sectors, vectors, and quads in one signal. That one signal line calculation settings 99.9% locations of pi into location system. That one position of its pattern opens up all calculations to its scale and line rotation centers into a new cocoon in line rotation surface and track location setting and track position. Okay, done my equation. All right, so when you get into that setting, try what's going on in location centers, right? Box position of travel lines. Okay, your tesseract communication settings. 72 equals lines over power. Okay, power line, generation line, interference of 3 windows in set location. Okay, now those windows line calculation setting, we have 1 provision, 2 line sectors, and 3 lines of dots, and 4 lines of 5, and 5 lines of 6, and 6 lines of 7 in set location of travel. Direct calculations of box line triangulation of 3 set position of programs. Okay, so we take the program line indication to your quantum line rotation centers and travel calculation of tesseracts. Point system locations. Now the sun comes in a plateau and ground line routers and line position location and travel setting. Okay, that opens all signal locations. Now we're bringing the XT1000 as center line rotation. Scans position location as center line. Okay, making sure you what you're doing through modulation. Pattern lines are 2 pattern line settings. See the 2 patterns? So we equal line the dots, space in between. Okay. Row graph calculation of box line calculation of data lines and operation surface. Platitude line calculation setting to electrical circuits, electrical panels, electrical walls, electrical grounds, and to new operation of expansion and set location of travel. That's my equation. All right. So understanding the biometric line screens is understand how to do through pi, through SkyGrid line setting. So that's what it is, locations. So it's all about point system line connections of travel settings, point system locations. Biometric screen lines calculation setting of lacing lines of communication and 3 lines of rotation circle triangulation. So point system out, point system track and 2 patterns, space in between inside locations. So getting direct signals to your electrical panels and rotation surface. Travel calculation line settings of 0 line communication indicates lines of new ground line operation surface and set position towards operation. Okay, so this is where you come into your pyramid line rotation surface and triangulation. Okay, point system line of travel. Okay, so sets location of graph lines, crosses line calculation of 2 lines and set locations. That's 4 over measure, 4 over pi, 4 line calculation setting, and 5 line provision and set location. Okay, that's my equation. All right, so we get the XT1000 go into the center line communication. All right, that sets the tone and 1 line signature down cross locations. Opens up the panels, opens up provisions, opens up the cycles, opens up the point system, and setting line calculation setting, and 8 line communication to its system location. Okay, now taking position line calculations in lines of 3 lines, 4 lines, 5, 6, 7, and 8 through its equation. Travel extent time sequence, all lines as center lines. Platitude line interference and substitution, all of us cerebral cortex lines at 3 set location line settings and travel extent time sequence. Platitude line rotation. Now the trackification of 3 line measure sets position of travel settings. Okay, and set location. That's where it comes into 3 line communication, right? Then we set up another line and center line calculation setting comes into a box locations. So that's 4 over 3 over pi. Now it's all set up. So very powerful on how we set these things up, the equation, guys. It's incredible stuff when you see it through location. Okay. All right. So solar spheres, set location line settings. So we just take the travel communication of 3 lines down cross location. Okay. Inline platform and center line calculations and center position. Okay. All right, so when you get your pyramid line screen line, the calculation of the constant calculation screen location of its black hole center lines its communication setting to another tunnel in line center and position to its operation surface and 2 line communications and the 3 line waving line rotations of position, center calculation of future and now, and set location of travel settings. Okay, very powerful stuff. So 4 provisions. 4 cycles, line calculation of 3. So it's a 4 box, 4 point system and a triangulation of 3 set line connection. Okay. Very complicated stuff. And you're working with your pyramid. See your pyramid location here and travel calculations. All right. All measures is accountability. Okay. Very, very complicated stuff. All right. You see your T reception line screens is that location of your system of transistors. That's how you guys are coming to modification. So you look at the equation lines, you can see the neckline position of travel lines. Here's the intelligence formation location of centers. Here is the waving line rotation center position of track lines into a calculation system, into 2 panels of operation. Okay, mega multi-pass. Okay. So, like I said, it's going to get extremely complicated now because I'm going through the biometric screen location centers. So the 24 provisions, 24 cycles, 24 line calculations, and 24 grounds, 24 atmospheres, 24 space, slash line condition height, 24 lines of time, space lines of time, set position travel. So 24 measure equal lines of calculation is 72. 24 location equals 13. 24 locations 48. 24 location line interference is 144. And 24 line settings and 24 line signals sets position 2 panels line calculation setting above and below center line communication center of operation. Okay. All right. So the balanced signal lines comes back to application centers on all levels, how you use your graph communication center to travel communication to its operation service. Really understand the point system, its location system, and travel calculations. So it's very powerful when you come into this location setting attraction. Okay. So that's what it is. It's about balancing your metric screens and location nearby lines. The hydrogen sphere line connects high center interference. Now this comes location system. The flux path position of travel lines of 3-point system locations. All right. Direct line calculations in 1 line, 2 lines, and 3 traffications. Right. So flux path to triangulation line calculation of time step and line rotation. Okay. Comes a calculation of 4 line signals. Now, this gets tricky because the point system location hydrogen line calculation setting comes in all calculation setting to a dome. Calculation high interference, Travis calculation of 3 lines of communication. And again, 4 lines of communications. You're always working 4, you're always working 3, right? Direct communication. Look how powerful that is. All right, so in that calculation line interference, you come into your pyramid. So that's 6 over lines of 7, locations of 8 in line calculation setting. 10 in provision, 11 in cycle, and 12 line rotation. Flywheel erection of time sequence. Calculation modification, your centers of operation surface and set location. All right, so we get position lines of your pyramid line, rotors, line set location, line calculation setting to your system. Travel calculated line interference comes all calculation setting to a crop circle line rotation, center of operation, set position to its calculation. Okay, so we crisscross line calculation screens. Crisscross line calculation screens. Cross line calculation screens of patterns, line calculation setting, fly direction of timelines, crossing line calculation string location system in line calculation setting, waving line cycles and rotators, high calculation string location system of its position, of its intelligent line calculation setting, and all levels of position traction. Calculation line centers high line interference into triangulation reset position of programs and point system one direction subset location. Okay, now that's done through equation. How's everybody doing through so far? Get to understand provision line cycles through biometric locations of pi and how to use your correlations of panels and direct signal to modifications of cycles. Setting position location in your system, all levels of track location. All right, how's everybody doing so far? Questions or comments will be asked after locations on Zoom line setting. Okay. All right, so there's a lot of calculation stream locations that are coming in, really in position location in your systems. So factors over pi is really understanding how to set position your settings. Now this is interlocation setting, cross line calculation setting location, point system, point system, point system, point system. Now you got your point system location settings attractions. So you got 24 line provision, 24 cycles, 24 centers, 24 line set location, away line set location of 3 lines, into 24 line calculation left and 24 line calculations right. Tractor's correlation setting is 3, 3, 3 now. Okay. Center communication is 2 panels split in between 3 line calculations. That is the space in between. Okay. Flywheel goes into the center communication, guys. This is how it's all set up now. Okay. Coming into line calculation setting, location your system traction. Okay. Now we come into the center line communication. All right. This opens up the communication settings all over your system. Okay. So we go through 1, 2, 3, 4 panels of stargates. Okay. And then we go through 5, 6, 7 and set positions of 8 and set location. Right. And then we open up the realms of set location of core lines, of clock lines, center lines, of Fibonacci line swirls, into locations or levels of triangulation, reset position of programs, and set location of travel. Okay, so as that's open, there's 2 xt1000 line calculation settings, north, east, west, south, and 2 line rotations. Box position locations, all levels. Got a box line rotation, right? Now, we do a 3 triangulation split in a crossing signal. All right. Sets position of 3 lines of center lines of calculations into point system locations. Indirect signal to location, what's above and what's below. Okay. Now we come into triangulation and reset position of pyramids. Pyramid there. And we come into Merkaba, tesseract, tetrahedron to all levels of new process position of travel lines into forward line communications and setting attraction. Okay. Directing communication is really understand how to balance out your flywheel redirect signals, okay, in two panels. Direct communication of sun line puts position of track lines and operation surface in set location. Okay. So you have to really understand how to use the modulation stream location centers now. Because the center position location of box lines, your theta communications is all travel lines of three line direction of time sequence. This blocks the center line or rotation surface in set locations. This opens up the dimensional door lines and screen location center. Okay. So this opens up all levels of space lines anomaly and line calculation of cerebral cortex lines of perception over your theta communication centers and all track locations. And a 24 signal line calculation setting to a 72 position locations into set position to its operation. Okay. Very complicated stuff. Very complicated. All right. So that's done. Okay. So, whew, lots going on, into high calculation. So 0-point track lines, we got the outline rotation surface, and we got the delta, and we got the theta line rotation of center position operation. Okay, that track lines are three line settings: box line, box line, box line. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 position location travel. Now the sun comes in line setting, but we only weighted on a signal location all levels of seconds per line. The channels is communication setting the program positions to its operation. The operation line set location of center line to box line triangulates the high calculation of three lines of measure. Positions of platforms correlate high calculation of three platforms to position traction. Downshift cross line calculation stream locations. Now, this indicates the platforms. Okay, it's very important to understand the platforms communications, the set location of traction. Okay. Now, directing communication X2000 comes in, right, at set locations, scans lines and center position of operation. Okay. Brings in tone, 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 communication system, right? That's what it does, right? Picks it up, right? And sets lines of communication into the center and it travels through, right? Before it travels through, it goes to the point system, and it goes around the clocking system locations in your 24 new clock line rotations and travel calculation lines. Second parameter sets lines that correlates in channel lines, changes position of track lines and high center interference of operation. The operation line calculation setting puts all calculation setting. So 24 million line cycles, 24 million line rotations, and 24 calculation setting. Track location at 333, heart, mind, and soul. Redirect communications into its intelligence and set formation. There's the eyes. You see how that works in all set location of platforms? You see how this works in set location, your settings and traction? It's very complicated, isn't it? Right? All right. So that's done through equation line setting. So it's all about retracting the high position location on levels, putting all your flywheels line in all rotations at 24 line rotations, 24 grounds, and calculation setting. Okay? Starting with your diamond core line center location system. Center line communication is now in line settings and all level rotation surface and triangulation. Okay, so we got the calculation of diamond core. Now we're going to shift the anomaly, split the position line travel lines in a box location. All right, point system of the sun. Okay, opens up a signal line communication travel lines, direction of time lines, fly calculation line setting, and track location of center. Very complicated stuff. See the teleportation unit, right? So once you understand how to set position location line system, you have to understand how to use the X2000 position of traction. How it comes in and scans lines on all position location, all of those crosses screen locations. Okay. So once that comes in line interference, it picks it up. It picks it up. It picks it up. Okay. And then it scans line centers, eye calculations, and travels right through back to the moon set location. Moon tracks lines is sun. Sun comes in track locations into the all setting, into all calculations, into track location of its division of its routers and calculation stream location. Look how powerful that is, the location travels. Okay? Done by equation. All right. So there's so many different ways of doing this, guys. You just have to really understand how this all works in location your vibrational graph settings. Because your connections to your triangulations and your box lines and location of your system is now in a track location centers. So box line calculation center is 24, 24, 24, 24, Okay, and it's 3 communication and 3, 3, 3, and center communication. That's where it is now. Space in between 3, 3, 3 is now set up. Set position track lines in your triangulation line calculation setting and position location operation location of pyramid line. Setting track location system into levels of female male into male in position of female. Mother Earth line router line calculation setting and position location system. Computer operation line set location of travel lines and 3-line communication setting and tunnels of communication of travel. Now, getting direct signal triangulation. Power restriction timelines, 3-line rotation surface, triangulation high position location center. Track position location, location grid. Location grid comes in a high line track line, high position to its operation. Sets position of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 panels of communication of center. The operation line calculation setting to all set location is line settings. So your higher self measures this position location, like high center interference, box line calculation, triangulation, reset position of programs, line calculation, alpha line centers, delta communication box line, triangulation, and reset position programs, direct communication lines of 24 signature, 24 ground, 24 atmosphere location of space, times 2 times lines times pi, direct signal location centers and track location. That my equation. Okay, it's all set up. Location grids and center lines, high calculation line system, add-on line calculations of 2 lines of tracks, 3 lines of provisions, and 3 set locations. Okay. Well, I'm just showing you how you can go through biometric locations of pi. So it's more putting these things together in line conditions of balance. See how everything stays within the center location, or system location, universe location? Nothing is outside, is it? Everything is inside location, right? And that's what it is. So you are the universe line calculation of center of all operation, right? But it's extremely, extremely powerful when you understand everything comes in provision locations to your cycles of set location. Look how powerful it is. Okay? Everything is inside. Nothing is left outside. Coursing channels, metric screens, line calculation of scales, 2-point systems, and set location. Okay, scales, balance setting, right? Mechanism calculation line centers, all position of travel, right? Intelligence. Very easy to do. 2x(d)(1000) line stream locations, travel settings, right? Point systems, comes into the sun, comes into the moon, and line rotation, surface and triangulation, and reset position of programs. Okay? Now, the triangulation line setting crosses line calculation, x(d)(1000) position levels, sets position to its location grid, and set position to its operation surface and set location. Okay? Travels lines, sets line security panels, and line calculation. Okay? Now, directing line calculation setting to its orb, channels its line calculation setting. Perceptions over pi and direct signals, okay, to your kaleidoscope, which is your kilo, and set position of operation. Directing communications of panel lines, 3 lines split, which is a biograph screen locations of biometrics, and center communication lines of Saturn and set position of operation. Saturn. All right, so line calculations comes into Jupiter. Jupiter sets position of track lines in a 2 waving line cycle, setting 2 graphs at equal line communication center of operation. Operation line calculation setting track lines. Sun lines its communication line system, opens up all channels and line center line rotation and surface calculation stream locations and high settings and all levels of operation. Everything stays inside. Everything stays inside. Okay. All right. So we got Neptune line crosses line calculations only in a point system, 1 traction. Okay. That's coordinates over line calculation setting. Okay. 72 light years away in a 4-track location of measure. Triangulation reset position of point systems. Now we get an archetype screen line, sets a calculation lines, a calculation stream location system to a new level, a high calculation setting, high lines of operation, and set locations to a 13-line provision line connections, a space anomaly, and track location. Look how powerful that is. Boom. You want to screenshot that one. Okay? Very complicated stuff. Travel mechanism lines. Think of your location in your brain. Works everything inside. So in that line rotation surface, you have 2 line position location of track lines, all right? you got the above signal, and you got the process position of all levels, ground line, rotation, service. This position track line communication setting, all set location in your system that tracks this information line cycles and high calculation line system to your brain set location. Okay? See that? See that? There's a nose, right? Oof, what's that here? Whoa, what's this here? What do we work from inside location? Ah. So the connections and line setting, space anomaly, tracks location of time sequence, puts position location as measures. The XT1000s comes from outer space, guys. Okay, it's always from outer space. It's never from inner space. The inner space is you. Outer space comes to you. Sun and the moon is outer space. It's not inner space. So don't get confused that anomaly, because you guys are now biocomputers. Getting your system and locations in all settings is really understand the traction. So getting that position location, your sun and the moon through astral trajectory and position line connection puts you in all levels of space direction of time sequence and set location. Okay. So now you understand the position location of programs, how it sets position your operation line conditions. Inner space, inner line, everything inner line condition is you, right? Yes, the sun and the moon is in your system locations. But once the brain releases the patterns and set location lines and it goes on its own multiple set location automatically, it becomes its own space anomaly, which basically the direct location system opens all track location of its measure. It comes into outer space in position location. It creates its own set location of space time. So it's really interesting when it comes into its own set location line system, all levels. The inner lines of space is you. The outer line calculation setting is position of the sun and the moon through the creation line calculation to its XT1000 set location line system. Space and time comes to you. It comes to you. Okay? So that's what it is in opposition to track location of intelligence. It's that position. Okay? So now you understand the provision cycles, right? And how it all works. Right? All through anomaly. Right? So that's what it is. You master your communication lines, metaphorically speaking, location, your polarities. Know exactly how fast you're going in acceleration. Mocking centers like how these settings put you into 24 ground lines and position locations into your clock line, rotation surface, and triangulation reset position of programs. Understand the space in between because your biocomputers are biometrics. The schematics over pi indirect signal location is the cryogenetics. The cryometric line interference of the hydrometics. Hydrometics, the line calculating setting is all levels of scales of balance. Direct and communication line set location, your box triangles, and high calculation stream location is an indication line calculation how to line its communication to override, overdrive, intercept, interconnect, or interface position travels in interline communication setting to all track location. To all set location of travel. Okay? All right. So how's everybody doing so far? Everybody get a little bit more understanding of what's actually happening with your set location system. Why I keep telling everybody just to focus on yourself more than ever. Because if you don't focus on yourself, you're not going to have outer space. Yes, you're creating the inner space, right? So try to understand, you're creating the inner line centers of space. And then once you understand that, the space in between is the outer space. So that's intelligence coming to you. That's the transmitters of the receivers, the receive location setting, where the team is turning in set location setting, all levels, a set location system of their GOD into the biometric locations of pi through set location of travel lines and set location of center of operation. Okay? Everything is inside line. So anything that comes out line is the outer space in you, but it's inside you. But don't get confused that line connection centers. There's only 2 track locations, not 3. The provision line calculation setting is all calculated how you use your positive and negative. So there's 2 track locations, positive and negative. Okay? That's it. That's the center communication of everything of yin and yang. Okay? So you're always working positive, you're always working negative. You're always working positive, you're always working negative. See how it comes in position? You're always working positive, you're always working negative. Positive, negative, 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 positive, negative. Everything's positive and negative, but it's always in the center. You're always in the center. Okay? So getting in that position on track lines, traveling out, okay, is positions of what? Transmitting. You're traveling out, right? You're traveling out. So when you're traveling out, you're receiving, which is outer space, coming to you through the sun, through the moon, through your XT thousands or orbs or anything through generation, location of travel setting and set locations. Okay? Complicated, right? So now you understand the importance where you just focus on yourself. Mind blown. So that's how this works. Okay? So it's you creating the space inside you first. You create the atmospheres, you create the space and time, you provisions, line cycles, you create the planets. But in that position, once the brain understands the convergent line condition, it creates its own anomaly. Your actual set location, your structure of design that you co-created comes out of your system locations and becomes its own outer space of its own holographic setting of its own set location. Okay? A space and time. So now you get balanced with the inner line calculations, the inner links, inner line calculations, three locations to its detection, inner locations to your outer line, outer links, outer realms, outer calculations, outer space. Okay? Orbits, inner orbits, outer orbits, right? So everything in provision comes to you, okay? But you've got to understand the communication in your system first, how to use the transmitting and receiving to a set location in your system and at all levels of track locations, okay? All through set location, okay? Wow, eh? That's it, we're done. We're done, yay! So, seeing how it goes, the moon injects back into central sun. Yes, that's exactly what it is. See, the thing is, you have to understand you're creating the space. Okay, that's where you first start off. You get your quad computers. You start to connect with your system, which is your inner soul. There's an inner soul, but there's also an outer soul. That is your outer soul. You understand? Your outer soul is outer space, and it doesn't come to you until you understand your inner space. You understand that? So this is how it works now, guys. Okay? So it's all about understanding how to transmit and receive. You're transmitting and receiving information to your receivers, which is transistors. So you're setting out location your signals and location system modification. How you set these things out is all levels of youth provision, but it's truly understanding that everything outside has to recognize you from inside. That's its intelligence, space in between. Okay? So there's two lines anomalies. You create the space in between of you, and then you create the space and the time, location, settings of intelligence coming to you, which is its own intelligence, which is no longer your information of you. It's intelligence coming to you. So that's how this works. It's that location of its balance of yin and yang. This is the process that we all have to come into. It's that location of your settings. Okay? Done by equation. All right. That's it. I'll see you guys in 5. Adios.